All right, let's get right into it. We're heading back in time into the dark, foggy, gaslit streets of Victorian London. We're here to unpack the story of a legend, a truly bizarre and terrifying figure that haunted the city. So you have to picture this. It's the 19th century. London is this booming, chaotic city of incredible contrasts. You've got unimaginable wealth right next to the most desperate, grinding poverty. And the new gas lights that were supposed to make everything safer, well, all they really did was make the shadows deeper and more menacing. It's this world, this anxious, simmering pot of industrial progress and social fear, that was the absolute perfect breeding ground for a new kind of monster to be born. And this is the creature that clawed its way into the public's nightmares. Spring-Heeled Jack wasn't just some common criminal, no. The stories described something demonic, almost supernatural. A phantom that could leap over entire buildings in a single bound. A monster that breathed blue and white fire from its mouth and attacked its victims, often women walking home alone, with claws that felt like cold, sharp metal. This was the version of the story that caused real, genuine panic on the streets of London. Okay, but here's where the whole thing gets incredibly weird and interesting. While all these terrifying rumors are spreading like wildfire through word of mouth and the newspapers, something else is happening. On the street corners, a completely different version of Spring-Heeled Jack was being sold for a penny a week in these cheap, sensational novels called penny dreadfuls. And today, we're going to dive into one of those novels, because the story it tells, well, it's not what you'd expect at all. So let's get into this amazing source material. I want you to, just for a moment, forget everything you just heard about the fire-breathing demon. The character we meet in the pages of this story is someone else entirely. He's a cloaked vigilante, a mysterious protector who uses the darkness of the city not to terrorize, but to hide in plain sight. The first time we meet this version of Jack, he's a silent observer. He's perched somewhere in the shadows, looking through a window into a dimly lit room. And what he sees is a scene of pure injustice. A woman, clearly in deep trouble, pleading with a man who just radiates villainy. And seeing this, it immediately sparks something in Jack. His adventurous spirit is ignited, and you can feel this undeniable compulsion in him to step in and do something. And this quote, "This is everything," it tells you exactly what his motivation is. He knows he has a scary reputation. He's fully aware that people are terrified of him, but he sees that fear as a tool he can use. He admits he's a thrill-seeker, driven by this adventurous spirit. But he's a thrill-seeker who wants to channel that energy into doing good. That's not the thinking of a mindless monster. That is the code of a vigilante. And the story doesn't waste any time proving it. It doesn't just tell you he's a hero, it shows you. It throws him right into a confrontation with a real piece of work named Grasper, a man who is actively blackmailing a desperate woman right before our eyes. And here you see just how cunning this villain, Grasper, is. When he realizes he has been cornered, what does he do? He tries to use the law itself as a weapon. He calls for a police officer, and then, to save his own skin, he accuses his victim of this terrible crime, a crime that would absolutely ruin her. It is such a classic villain move, twisting justice to serve his own wicked goals. But just as that legal trap is about to snap shut, Jack makes his move. It is pure, high-stakes drama. He bursts into the room, and he doesn't need to say a word. Just his presence and this single threatening posture, it completely flips the power dynamic in the room. In a flash, the tables are turned. You know, his real power here comes from his terrifying reputation. All it takes is one word, "begone," and that one menacing gesture with his foot, and both the villain and the corrupt officer are sent running for their lives into the street. The woman is saved from total disaster. It's swift, it's decisive, and it is absolutely, undeniably heroic. But this literary version of Jack wasn't just about helping out individuals in trouble. Oh, no. He made a regular sport of outwitting and publicly humiliating the authorities, who, in these kinds of stories, are usually shown to be arrogant, bumbling, and totally ineffective. The story gives us this fantastic scene. A policeman is just bragging to a total stranger, who, of course, is Jack in disguise, about how he's not scared of this so-called phantom. The officer is just dripping with bravado, going on and on about how easily he'd capture Jack and get a big promotion for it, all while being completely clueless about who he's actually talking to. And then we see his legendary abilities unleashed. When the police finally make their move and try to arrest him, his skills are just on another level. He's not just strong, he's impossibly fast and agile. He drops one officer with a single blow, dodges another, and then the grand finale, that incredible leap. But in this context, it's not an act of demonic terror. It's the signature escape move of a master, always one step ahead of the law. So let's just take a step back and put all the pieces together. Based on all this evidence from the Penny Dreadful, who is this character that's emerging from the pages? What's he really all about? He is, without a doubt, a classic vigilante, a mysterious cloaked hero who protects the innocent, outsmarts the corrupt, and has these almost superhuman acrobatic skills. I mean, think about it. He is basically a proto-superhero for Victorian London. This swashbuckling, exciting, heroic character, this is who the working-class people of the city were lining up to pay their pennies for week after week. And that right there brings us to the biggest puzzle of this entire legend. How do we square this? How can you possibly have the terrifying monster from the urban myths existing at the exact same time as this beloved hero from popular fiction? How can they both be Spring-Heeled Jack? You know, when you see the two versions laid out side by side like this, the contrast is just staggering. It's night and day. On one side, you've got a demonic phantom whose only motivation is malicious terror. And on the other, a heroic vigilante driven by a desire for justice and adventure. It's a complete and total contradiction, and it really shows you the massive canyon between public fear and popular entertainment. This reveals something so fascinating about the Victorian imagination. The very same figure could be a horrifying monster in the rumors people whispered to each other on the street, and at the same time, a celebrated swashbuckling hero in the stories they read at home. It's just a perfect example of the incredible power of popular media to shape and sometimes completely reinvent a legend. In the end, this incredible source material doesn't give us a definitive answer about who or what was actually leaping across the rooftops of London all those years ago. But what it does do is leave us with a much more interesting question. How are legends actually built? Are they born from our fears and from rumors whispered in the dark? Or are they built from the stories we choose to tell ourselves, the heroes we want to believe in? The real answer, maybe, is somewhere in the shadows between the two.